Minister Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I am grateful to the opposition for giving me the opportunity to respond and speak on behalf of and about this government's record on fighting crime. And I will come to that, including our work to get weapons off the streets and stop them falling into the wrong hands, which is having a real impact. But, Mr Speaker, much as my right honourable friend, the member for the Wrekin, said, we should remember what this is all about, and my right honourable friend was absolutely right. It is not about party politics, it's not about point scoring or cheap jibes or sound bites, because the truth is that serious violence and knife crime leaves the same trail and misery and devastation in their wake, regardless of the constituency that we represent. The tragic reality, Mr Speaker, is that many of us, in fact far too many, on both sides of this House will have had the humbling experience of sitting with the loved ones of victims of crime whose lives have been cut short in the most tragic ways. And I'll give way in a few moments. Let me finish my introductory remarks, and then of course I'll give way to the Honourable Lady. There is very little that one can say in those circumstances that will ease the pain of losing a son, a daughter, a brother or a sister. And, Mr Speaker, it's incumbent on all of us, and by us I mean the government, the police, but also each and every one of us here who contributes to public life, to strain every sinew to stop others suffering as they have. I give way.
I thank the Minister for giving way, and with regards to the remarks he's just made, I've also been in the situation in the last month of having to write to the mother of a 21-year-old young man who was stabbed to death at Strawberry Hill Station in my constituency last month. And understandably, parents and teenagers and other young people are raising their concerns with me about how we can tackle this huge increase. In London alone, as a policing minister will know, we've seen almost a fifth increase in knife crime since 2022. Now, if we're going to ban all of these weapons, we need good intelligence-led community policing. But in London, since 2015, we've seen our community police support officers cut by a third. So what assurances can the Minister give my constituents that we will see an uplift in police officers, including in places like Richmond upon Thames, which are often deprioritised because it's seen as a safe area? No area is immune from knife crime.
I agree with the Honourable Lady on her last point, and Mr Speaker, I feel, given the representatives that are here in this chamber, that there will be lots that will be said, and rightly said, in relation to crime and knife crime in London. I know the Honourable Lady will be contributing later on in this debate as well, because it's right to say that every time somebody picks up a knife or other dangerous weapon, there is the potential for bloodshed. And every time someone arms themselves, whether for protection or with violent intent, they risk ruining not only others' lives, but their own lives as well. And this has been brought home time and again in the most devastating fashion in recent days, in recent weeks and months. And my thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends who are mourning such devastating losses. It is any parent's worst nightmare. Mr Speaker, that the victims are so often young people with their whole lives ahead of them, it makes it all the more unbearable. And in our shock and our grief, we must remain steadfast in our conviction that we can get knives and other dangerous weapons off our streets, that we can prevent young people from getting drawn into violent crime in the first place. And again, in the spirit that my right honourable friend, the member for Wrekin, made at the outset in an intervention on the Shadow Minister, I'd like to reflect on a debate that we had before recess that was led by my right honourable friend, the member for Aldridge Brownhills. And there was actually cross-party support during the course of that debate. Mr Speaker, it's right to say my right honourable friend mentioned the Knife Angel in the borough of Walsall in Aldridge Brownhills, and she mentioned also a campaign from the Brindley family and the Brindley Foundation that was set up to bring about positive social action as a result of a tragedy. And I know my honourable friend, the member for Old Bexley and Sidcup, made powerful interventions during the course of that debate as well. But it is right to look at the numbers and the latest data as well, because when looking at the latest data on hospital admissions of under 25s following an assault with a sharp object, it shows that there is a 25% reduction since December 2019. This is a good indicator, the most reliable indicator for serious youth violence. And I know my right honourable friend, the Policing Minister, will mention the crime survey as well in due course, because the crime survey shows that violent crime has reduced by 51% since 2010. And it's right to say that nationally homicide has fallen. But it is obvious, Mr. Speaker, that data on a chart provides no comfort for victims' families. And of course, any incident of serious violence or knife crime is one too many. And that is why this government is continually looking at what more we can do to protect our citizens, especially children and young people, and drive those numbers down further. Mr. Speaker, the police are on the front line in this effort, and I know that forces up and down the country are aware that this is an issue of significant public concern, and they are firmly committed to tackling it. And it's right that I, as a Dorset Member of Parliament, mention our Police and Crime Commissioner, David Sidgwick, and I pay tribute to him and the work that he is doing and the crime plan that he has put together for Dorset. But, Mr. Speaker, thanks to our recruitment drive, which has delivered the promised 20,000 extra officers, we have significantly bolstered the police across England and Wales. And with every additional officer, the ability of forces to crack down on weapons carrying and violence is strengthened. And that's included through the natural deterrence that flows from an increased police presence. And there is the added benefit of reassurance to all of our communities who are clear that they want to see more officers on the beat. But of course, Mr. Speaker, it's not just about how many police officers there are, but what forces do with the resources and with the powers that have been given to them. And this government has consistently and publicly backed the police to take the toughest possible stance when it comes to addressing serious violence, knife crime and weapons carrying. And that includes supporting the use of stop and search, which is a crucial tool. And it's right to say that since 2019, the police have removed 120,000 knives and dangerous weapons through stop and search, surrender programmes and other targeted action as well. And on that specific subject, every knife seized through stop and search, as I say, is a potential life saved. And in the year 2022 to 2023, stop and search resulted in about 74,000 arrests and removed over 15,000 weapons and firearms from our streets. The significance of stop and search should not be downplayed. Every knife or weapon seized is a potential life saved. Yes, of course I'll give way to him.
I'm grateful to the Minister of State giving way. On criminal sanctions, I mean, the opposition motion, I think, forgive me, is too generic and too sweeping and perhaps too adversarial. But on the latter point of criminal liability for the senior management of websites which indirectly sell illegal lives online, that particular point, unless the Minister of State doesn't want to tell me, what is the government's current thinking vis-à-vis the Criminal Justice Bill, which I know is working closely with the Shadow Minister? Thank you.
Well, it's right to say that the Crime and Justice Bill is passing through. It's had its committee stage, and my right honourable friend, the Policing Minister, is responding to the debate. I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I will encourage my right honourable friend, the Member for the Wrekin, to be here for the close of the debate when the Policing Minister will be winding up on behalf of the government. But it is right to say in the round that we actually have some of the toughest knife crime laws in the world. And, for example, it's illegal to carry any fixed-bladed knife in public without a good reason, and that carries a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison. And the Offensive Weapons Act from 2019 strengthened the law on sale and the delivery of knives to under 18s. Of course I give them.
Yes, talking about tougher sentences, and I know this government is bringing in very tough sentences for knife crime, but would my honourable friend agree that knife crime is due to a number of factors? It's not just about tough sentences. It includes socio-economic, gang activity, county lines, drug trade, which affects us in Hastings and Ryan, social media influence. So does he agree that building trust between communities and law enforcement
is as important as effective community policing and tough sentences. And as part of that building of trust, raising awareness about knife crime and educating young people about the risks can deter them from carrying weapons.
Mr. Speaker, may I thank my honourable friend for that intervention. And I will turn and address that point directly because she makes a very good point. And I want to turn to violence reduction units, which I think will help to address some of the points that she was raising. I'm very grateful to her for that intervention. But the fact is, Mr. Speaker, where there are gaps or loopholes and where they're identified, we have shown time and again that we will do what is necessary and we will always put the law-abiding majority first. And my right honourable friend mentioned the Criminal Justice Bill that's currently before Parliament. It's the latest illustration of our unwavering commitment to that mission. And it will give the police more powers to seize dangerous weapons. It will create a new offence of possession of a bladed weapon with an intent to harm, and it will increase sentences for those who import, manufacture or sell dangerous weapons to under 18s. But as my honourable friend just mentioned in her intervention, as well as tough enforcement, there is also an emphasis that must be placed on prevention. And of course, it goes without saying that the more we can do, and the best thing we can do to make all of our communities safe, is to stop these crimes from happening in the first place. And may I mention and develop my point in relation to violence reduction units, which bring together communities and local partners to tackle underlying causes of violence in the first place. And I know that my honourable friend will be interested to hear that in particular violence reduction units identify particularly young people who are in danger of following the wrong path. They bring together key partners from local authorities, the police, health and communities and beyond to better understand local drivers of violence. And this includes providing intensive support through mentoring programmes and the like. And I know that my honourable friend and others, hopefully across the House, will support the work that is already going on there. And in addition to that, Mr. Speaker, we've supported the police in their implementation of the GRIP Hotspot Patrols programme. And taken together, these initiatives have prevented over 3,200 hospital admissions for any violent injury since funding began in 2019. This shows the real-world impact our approach is having as we strive relentlessly to break the deadly cycle of violence that robs young people of a future and that destroys families.
I thank the Minister for giving way and for this very powerful speech, but does he agree with me that the best thing that we could do is put police stations on our high streets, such as in Maltby, Dinnington and Swallownest and Rother Valley? And I'm sure he's aware that the Labour Police and Crime Commissioner has underspent his budget this year of the tune of £3.5 million, money that could have been used to reopen police stations and get that going. Does he back my campaign to get these high streets having police stations and use that underspent money on that?
Well, I'm very grateful indeed to my honourable friend for raising and making that point. He's a powerful advocate for his community, and I know he will continue to champion this important issue and that he will continue his campaign. And I look forward to his further contributions. I'm very grateful to him for raising that important point. But it is right, Mr. Speaker, that through the concerted efforts of the government, police and partners, we have shown that this threat can be addressed, but we will not stop there. Of course, I'll give it.
Thank the Minister for responding to this debate, which is immensely important. But can I just press him on the specific issues in the motion? Will he now agree for the government to launch a new consultation on including ninja swords as part of the ban on online knife sales? If he could just agree to that today, we would make a significant step forward.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable Lady will know that in my response to the debate that I referred to previously before recess, that the police tell us that the greatest risk at the moment is the criminal use of zombie-style knives and machetes. That is action that is already being taken. But of course, we will take this keep this under review. We will not stop there. We will continue to think of the victims and their families. Mr. Speaker, we reaffirm our commitment to getting weapons and knives off our streets. We can and we must stop and make our communities safer, and that is what this government will work tirelessly to achieve.